Remember we were talking about the disappointing numbers that showed up from the Taycan Turbo EPA rating? So obviously in the EV landscape, electronic vehicle landscape, a big topic of conversation is the range ratings for the various vehicles that are available and the stated range from the manufacturer versus what the EPA puts out as the range they find, the real world. We see this with phone manufacturers with battery life, recharge times, optimal, under optimal circumstance.
Benchmarking.
And so the EPA did the test on the Taycan that they had, and they caused a stir. And I remember we talked about it. They were able to achieve a range of only 201 miles. 201 miles, not what people are looking for in a premium EV. Certainly not if they were looking at a Model S performance version. It's substantially better than that. Now, granted, maybe the two cars aren't targeted at the exact same market. Porsche puts the Turbo S badge on it. Maybe they're saying, look, ours is more of a performance vehicle and therefore treat it like that. Don't drive across the whole country, you jerk.
Right.
But it turns out the aspiration is to have better range than that. And in this individual's findings on InsideEVs.com, he did his own real world and got a much better figure than what the EPA did. Now, he's looking at the EPA saying, where are you getting your numbers from?
Yeah, so it's pretty much more than double.
No. He did a 436-mile drive to showcase that he has a bigger sample size, but he didn't get 436 miles on one charge. I know it's a confusing. Right. I think the headline is meant to get you to click.
Yeah, it got my attention.
Because you say, oh, he went on a 436-mile drive. Wow, that's a nice EV.
Yeah.
And then you click on it, you're like, wait, he took a trip, but he stopped and recharged during the trip. You understand what I'm saying?
I see.
But anyway, he got a better number nonetheless. His official number that he ended up on, that he landed on, he also said like he was driving responsibly, which is important, I suppose, if you're going to do this type of test. He came up to 248 miles of range per charge average over the course of the entire trip. So he added close to 50 miles onto the EPA rating, which is substantial, right? But when you're talking about 200, you add another 50. Yeah. It's good. It's still not the best out there, but it's an improvement. So there are so many factors that go into this, obviously. He also mentions in the article that he was losing elevation. In other words, the trip he was on, it was a relatively downhill trip.
Okay.
So how do you factor that in? How does the EPA look at that? What kind of systems is the EPA using for that? One thing's for certain. The real world test is going to be when people actually get it. When people actually get it, you'll see a huge sample size of how these things are actually performing, and then we'll find out. But Porsche is not a company that. So, for example, when it comes to 0 to 60 times, which is a common thing when people look at performance cars, they want to know what the 0 to 60 time is. They've always been incredibly conservative. They would say 0 to 60 time of 3.5 seconds. And then people would go out and clock it way faster than that. And they have a history of this. And you can go read in the forums and all the rest of it. People say, yeah, Porsche's conservative with this. So I would think that same ethic would follow through on this particular vehicle. So in a weird way, I understand the EPA and the purpose of the EPA existing, but I highly doubt that Porsche would put out figures better than the EPA if they didn't think people in the real world would be able to hit it. And of course, there's going to be updates that come out to the car, and maybe there's improvements to still be made. I don't know. But for the time being, here we have a real world test that outperformed the EPA rating. So if you're keeping track of this stuff, this could be positive news for you if you're a potential buyer of one of these. Oh, and keep in mind, eventually they're going to put out a non-performance version, right? They just started with the turbo model. So eventually, not non-performance, but
eco-friendly.
Yes, a range-oriented.
Yeah.
Presumably, we will see also a range-oriented option
Yep.
down the line. So they're not going to end it here. It's a cool read, by the way. If you're interested in how the trip went, how he charged, where he charged, and everything, you should go check it out, InsideEVs.com.